a tremendous tariff on lumber and things as such, and yet we don't need their lumber. We have more lumber than they do. We don't need Canada's lumber.
Canada does not dump lumber into the United States, and we will continue to make the case that these current and proposed duties are unjustified.
Provide a little bit more lumber within their supply, but there's no way that they can replace the imports coming from Canada.
When Donald Trump proclaimed that the U.S. could do without Canadian cars or lumber, it felt like political posturing. But those words quickly sparked action. Washington imposed new national security tariffs on Canadian lumber imports, and markets reacted swiftly. Lumber prices skyrocketed, hitting $650 per thousand board feet, a multi-year high. The ripple effect hit America's housing market hard. Here's why it stung. The U.S. relies on Canada for about 85% of its imported lumber, which makes up a third of total supply. By targeting these imports, the government kneecapped its own supply chain. Construction projects stalled, home prices spiked, and experts from Brookings and the National Association of Home Builders warned that every $10,000 hike in housing costs could lock millions out of home ownership. What was sold as a shield for American jobs ended up pinching families, slowing building and inflating costs. Meanwhile, Canada gained an unexpected edge as global buyers sought stable suppliers. What started as a brash declaration became a risky economic bet. Did it protect U.S. workers or hand Canada a strategic advantage? The tariffs exposed a messy reality. Canada supplies roughly 12 billion board feet of softwood lumber annually to the U.S., meeting a quarter of its demand. Even if U.S. sawmills ran at full capacity, they'd fall short by over 3.2 billion board feet. Industry experts note that even with massive investment, new mills, and ample timber, labor, and capital, it would take nearly a decade to replace Canada's share. Most U.S. mills, already at 95% capacity, grapple with outdated equipment and labor shortages. The fallout is clear on construction sites. Costs outpacing wages, builders paying more per beam, and home buyers facing unreachable prices. A policy meant to safeguard jobs began dragging down the economy, with lumber price hikes inflating everything from new homes to renovations. It laid bare a tough truth. Some economic ties are too entrenched to cut without pain, and independence often costs more than collaboration. While the U.S. grappled with rising costs, Canada chose a different path. Instead of retaliating, Ottawa leaned into resilience. Prime Minister Mark Carney rolled out a $500 million package to help lumber producers diversify exports and reduce reliance on the U.S. market. The federal government followed with $1.2 billion, about $870 million USD, to cushion the industry against anti-dumping duties and bolster its global competitiveness. British Columbia's Minister of Forests, Ravi Parmar, set a bold target to shift at least 10% of lumber exports to new markets. This wasn't about fighting back, it was about adapting. Government reports framed the challenge as a chance to retool Canada's role in global supply chains. Provinces like British Columbia and Alberta, long tied to U.S. demand, became hubs for innovation, investment, and trade expansion. Infrastructure upgrades, modernization grants, and global trade missions turned a crisis into a springboard for change. As the U.S. raised barriers, Canada built bridges, positioning its lumber industry to not just survive, but excel in global markets. The contrast sharpened over time. For decades, nearly 90% of Canadian lumber exports went to the U.S., a dependency that seemed ironclad. But the tariffs broke that mold. Canadian producers pivoted to new markets: South Korea, Vietnam, India, Australia, the UK, the EU, and emerging regions in the Middle East and North Africa. Japan, previously a minor buyer, boosted imports by 26% in early 2024, signaling trust in Canada's reliability. New trade deals with Germany and South Korea added momentum, cementing Canada's role as a sustainable supplier in the Asia-Pacific. Major forestry firms upgraded port facilities in Vancouver and Prince Rupert to handle surging global shipments. Each container shipped marked more than a sale. It signaled Canada's shift from a U.S.-centric supplier to a global player. In the U.S., however, the story soured. Stalled housing projects, soaring material costs, and supply shortages dominated headlines. Builders in states like Texas, Ohio, and Florida struggled to complete homes as budgets swelled. The National Association of Home Builders estimated that every 1% rise in lumber prices added over $1,000 to a home's cost. With prices nearing $765 per thousand board feet, that meant $10,000 more for the same house, with no gain in quality. Brookings put it starkly: tariffs don't protect industry. They hit American wallets. Domestic mills, hampered by old equipment and high costs, couldn't capitalize on the tariffs.